generation's music, and of all kinds. And so on Sundays we would generally listen to opera or classics or something
Wow.
like the Mikado or something like that, and just like have a big family midday breakfast. And it just became a tradition, you know. It was great.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, it's interesting that it was opera and not pop or anything else. I mean, you went to the big guns at that age.
Yeah, you know, I was not really a rock musician until much later. I played the flute in orchestras and band and stuff like that, and the family was pretty
Wow.
much classical music. And so yeah, it just came naturally to us. So
So
when
you must
pop
have
music,
read music then, right? You must have read music to
yeah,
play the flute. Wow,
yeah,
that's very cool.
and although I wouldn't call my sight reading really excellent, you know, it was
Well,
good
me
enough.
neither.
But
The
still,
master sight reader is next to you in the square.
yeah.
Ah,
Leland. Yeah, Leland. I would imagine, Leland, you sight read a lot of the stuff when you do a
Yeah,
session.
kind of like Ann. I grew up in a really eclectic musical household. My parents liked everything from Mozart to Martin Denny to you name it, big band. So that I would sit there at the old Magnavox and listening to the hi-fi and all this music. And
Hi-fi,
when I was
yeah.
5, I fell in love with Liberace. Not literally, but I would watch his TV show, and I was enamored with piano. And we had a piano, and I started studying. And I came up as a classical pianist.
Wow.
And I really, it was really strictly classical at that point. And I assumed I would be a pianist. And through that, I was a reader from the very beginning. So
Wow.
when my career got going, I was open to all of the TV and movies and jingles and all that because I could read. But when I got into junior high school, when I was 12, I assumed I'd be a piano player, but they had about 50 kids that played piano. And they said, we need a string bass player. And pulled out,
Upright.
yeah, upright. They pulled out
Wow.
an old blonde K upright, and I put it against me, plucked one note, felt that vibration, said sold, and
Yeah, that was
focused
it.
on bass at that point.
When I went to high school, I was the percussion leader because I was the only one in the school that could read.
Hmm.
Right? So I became the leader of the percussion thing, you know, and I would yell at the guy playing the bass drum and the guy playing the kettle drum and all that.
That's
And
great.
and I was a terror because when we did the marching band, I was the leader of the marching band. We do the football games, and you know the marching band would be at the back of the field, and then the teacher would go like this, you know, like, come on, okay, march down, and I'll tell everybody, don't go yet. And we'd be playing the cadences, and he'd go, come on, and I go, no, don't go yet. You know, I was just a ball buster.
Oh,
That's
that's great.
you.
And
I don't
then
believe that, Carmine.
finally, I'd say, okay, now go. And you know, by then the teacher was going out of his mind. You know, it was
yeah.
hilarious.
So
See,
what
That
did
was
you
my
do?
experience.
being a bass player, the marching band for me, there was nothing for me to do, so I was the drum major.
I
Ah,
gotcha.
I learned.
Oh, the big dum dum dum.
Yeah, I knew how to do the.
wait, hold on a minute. I could see Ann being the drum major, but not you.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, Ann, you
I
talk
could
about
never.
you both talk about your classical beginnings. If there was an opera that you could have actually performed, unless you have, and I couldn't find that, but if there was an opera that you could, would it be Traviata? Would it be? I mean, what would you do? A Puccini? Would you do an actual full opera?
I'd probably do Puccini, you know, just because it's the most accessible, and it's just got great melodies and songs, you know, and it's just more of the people, I think.
God, I would
Right.
love to see you in a Puccini opera. My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. You know, and I know that, you know, obviously being, you know, a rock legend, of course, and you've always had that. It seems like a very high propensity to Zeppelin music, and obviously one of my favorite performances is the Kennedy Center Honors when you did it with Jason Bonham, and that whole choir came out. And you did Stairway to Heaven when they got when the four guys got the Kennedy Center Honors. What and it really blew me away because obviously you freaking killed it. But I don't know that the first person to if I'm producing the show, and that's why I'm not producing the show. If I'm producing the show and we want Stairway to Heaven sung, would the first person be a female artist such as yourself? How did that all happen? Because you killed it. It was amazing.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you. I don't think that Zeppelin songs that much harp on gender. They seem to be pretty androgynous, at least enough so that I could sing it and I didn't have to change any genders around, which I hate to do.
Right.
It's stupid, But yeah, they had their way with that song. Boy, they cut a couple of verses out for TV and everything, so it was kind of customized for that length of time they had, and so
Yeah.
I mean, we had
Also
done.
there's not a lot of guys that could sing Robert Plant.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
There's
right.
not a lot of guys that could sing Robert Plant, and it was easier for a female to sing a female such as yourself
Totally,
that
yeah.
can hit that range, because really, how many guys do you know that could sing like Robert Plant used to sing?
Yeah.
There's not a
Well,
lot.
and frankly, if you think about Anne's
that are famous,
if you think about Anne's not only range but strength, because just because a female is a good vocalist, a great vocalist doesn't mean she could have hit it either. I mean, I'm telling you, in retrospect, what a phenomenal selection to have you guys do that. Right. I mean, I spoke about that. He played my place about a week or 2 weeks after that performance, and he said that you and he and the family have a very unique relationship as far as the Zeppelin family.
Right. Are you talking about Jason?
Yeah, Jason Bonham. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We had been doing a bunch of stuff with Jason. He actually came on stage with Hart for one whole tour, and like we did our set, and then he would come up and we do like a little mini set of all Zeppelin stuff with him playing, and so we were real current with it at that point. And
nice.
When they contacted us and said we'd like you to come into the Zeppelin tribute at the Kennedy Center Honors, I thought, great, they're going to ask us to sing rock and roll or Black Dog or some rocker. So when they said it was going to be Stairway, it gave me pause because that song is so holy. It's just you don't want to fuck it up, you just don't want to do anything wrong because it'd be worse than messing up the national anthem or something.
National anthem, right?
You so killed it. It was
my gosh,
it was awesome.
You were just fabulous. But you're fabulous every time you open your mouth. I mean, you're really one of the great singers of the
great singers. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely. Thank you. That's a lot to live up to. I better shut up.
Actually, we did something together, sort of, at the Library of Congress a couple of years ago for We Write the Songs, and you and Nancy came and performed at that, and it was great hearing just acoustically you guys there. I was in the house band, so
that was a really good day.
Of course you were in the house band.
Of course you were. It was number 1648, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Another thing, and some of this, if you don't mind, I'm taking some of my personal experiences. I've been such a fan of Hart, and as of late, because we've gotten to do some things together, of Ann Wilson specifically. Back in 2001, so just over 20 years ago, you did this thing in Grant Park, Chicago. Well, you did this tour, but I saw it at Grant Park in Chicago, and it was a walk down Abbey Road with a bunch of people that did Alan Parsons, just a whole Beatles thing. And that was just another spectacular. And I got to say, there was a few celebrities on that. I think Todd Rundgren was on it. But you so stole the show. I got to say, you stole the show there. And my question is, did you have a selection of the songs that you sang during that show, or they give you the songs?
They ran a big long list of all the songs they wanted in the show, and they said, "You pick," you know. So I think I picked maybe I'm Amazed, and maybe Hey
great.
Jude. I can't remember what else now, but yeah, that was
I know you
fun.
sang with a couple people, you know, a couple duets or group numbers you sang as part of that as well. It was just,
Huh? Yeah.
but you
David
stood out.
Well, yeah, and I was the only woman in the cast too, so that
Yeah,
but that's just par for the course in my career.
well, you know, and
Are
there
you
was
still living in Seattle? Are you still up there?
No, I'm living in Florida now. I'm living North Florida by St.
I live in
Augustine.
Florida too.
Really?
Are you South
Whereabouts?
Florida? Outside West Palm?
Right, yeah. Well,
Are you
we're a
in
bit
South Florida?
more north. No,
Say
we're
again?
by St. Augustine.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
By
great.
St. Augustine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love it here, I gotta say. How about you?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like it's real culture shock coming from Seattle, but I mean, I'm talking about the people now, but I love the weather, of course. You know,
Oh my goodness,
gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah, I love the weather.
wonderful.
I find the people down here are more friendly than like my wife had a house in Connecticut for 30 years and she only had one neighbor that she knew. Now here we know like so many people already, you know, it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're quite warm and friendly
Yeah.
on the surface. Yeah, but if you're considered
On the
if you're
surface.
considered a Yankee, you know, then it takes you a while to be accepted. At least up here in North Florida,
Really? Wow.
which is
Wow.
kind of like the redneck
Maybe
Riviera.
down here it's more there's a lot of people from here down here from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut.
East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast.
More liberal. Yep, more
Yeah,
liberal.
Yeah, there you
liberal.
go.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as we go back a little bit in history, and I just got to ask Leland, you know, back I think it was 72, 73 or so. You one of your sessions was with the Doors, and you know, I'm trying to imagine what a session would be like with those guys, especially with Jim. I mean, was it all together? How did it happen?
Jim was dead at that point. It was the first album they did after Jim passed away. I think it was called Full Moon. So it was Robbie, you know, Ray and Jim. But at that point, Jim Morrison had passed away, and this was the very first album they did with us. But I grew up on the Sunset Strip, and you know, saw everybody playing there, and I'd seen the Doors so many times. So it was kind of interesting to go from being an audience to suddenly being in the studio with the guys, and you know, and talking, and hanging out. But it was really fun, and whenever I see. I was just on before we were talking about it earlier, just before the last thing before COVID hit was a thing called the Rock Legends Cruise, and Krieger was on it, and we were talking about doing the album.
We just did 7 gigs with Krieger in October with Vanilla Fudge.
Yeah, he's still out there, man.
Yeah,
he's still out there.
And
I remember I was actually up in Michigan with Toto. And we were checking into the hotel, and we hear a banging on the window, and we look over, and Abe Jr.'s outside the window. And
awesome.
He came in, and he said, "What are you guys doing?" We said, "We're playing down the street tomorrow night." And he goes, "Well, I'm with Paul tonight, so you want to come to the show?" So we went early and hung out in the dressing room. And Paul was sitting there going, "Look, I'm like 72 at that point." He goes, "What else am I going to do?" You know, I mean, it's like
good point.
Like you're going to retire from this, but you know, this would be your avocation if it wasn't your vocation, because it's the greatest joy in life is to play music with people. And so when I see Bobby and those guys out there, you know, it's they have a legacy, and as long as they're ambulatory and can still do it, what the hell, get out there and do it.
We got 3 out of 4 Vanilla Fudge guys still.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Nobody has that, you know. And we were going to play with Robbie at Ron's place next month, but it's been moved.
We're gonna move it. Yeah.
But anyway, what about that story we talked about before when you saw Vanilla Fudge with Hendrix at the Hollywood Bowl?
Oh yeah. Well,
tell that story. That's funny.
Yeah, it was crazy. I signed up one summer to be an usher at the Hollywood Bowl, and they didn't need me at that point. So, fine. I was in high school, and then the Beatles were going to play at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was a Beatles freak. So I wrote for tickets, and they said, "Sorry, we're sold out. Can't." I was bummed and depressed about it. But I get a notice in the mail from the Hollywood Bowl going, "We have a special event coming up and we need extra ushers. Are you available?" And I ended up getting paid $5 to be an usher at the Hollywood Bowl for the Beatles. But I stayed on for the whole summer. So I got to see the Ravi Shankar India Festival and Beach Boys and the Mamas and Papas and Love and Spoonful and all that.
Wow.
But I saw Jimi Hendrix, and you guys were on the bill with Jimi Hendrix. And I was such a huge Vanilla Fudge fan. And it just took my breath away. You guys were so good live, man. It was just a
Still are.
then-
Still are.
Yeah, still
Yeah.
are. Yeah. And
Got
what,
Mark's hitting the notes. I mean, it's
what-
incredible.
what I remember the most of that gig was, as you mentioned before, there used to be a pool in front of the stage, and people
That's weird.
started jumping in the pool to come closer to the stage, and they had electric lights in the pool, and everybody was afraid they were going to get electrocuted.
Yeah, it was
You know?
insane.
It was crazy.
Yeah. The crazy.
And if you go there now, the pool's covered up.
The vibe of it back then, because I didn't have any of the structure inside the bowl or over, so it was just a bowl. It didn't have all the sound and and all the acoustical things, which make it sound better. But my greatest memory of the Hollywood Bowl was my parents used to take me every summer to Gershwin night at the bowl, and we were sitting there. I was probably about 12 years old, and they were right in the middle of Concerto in F, and all of a sudden the orchestra stopped. And they all walked to the front of the stage, and we all looked up, and Sputnik flew over.
Whoa!
Nobody had ever. That was the first thing in space, and it was this tiny silver dot that just went over the horizon. And as soon as it disappeared, the orchestra sat down and continued playing at that point.
Oh, nice!
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. I tell you what, some of the things that happens behind the scenes that you don't ever hear. In 2018 at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremonies, you did such a wonderful tribute to Chris Cornell with Jerry Cantrell, and awesome. Again, just heartbreaking, heartwarming. And was that something that you kind of were you asked to be a part of that? Was it something you really, asked to be a part of that? I mean, did you have a special relationship with Chris or Soundgarden?
Yeah, Chris was a friend, and he was also Jerry's friend, and so that was something that Jerry and I sort of pushed on them.
Thank God.
They were going to do, they were going to do like this typical tribute, to our beloved departed Chris, that was just a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. And we thought, nah, it needs something more to make it special. So we did that.
Right.
And we did it acoustic, which was really cool because I've never.
Chris was awesome.
He was great
singer. And that whole scene in Seattle in that time was after you guys were famous, right? Many years after that, and then all of a sudden, Seattle became like the thing that destroyed all of the rest of the industry. Like we all became dinosaurs.
The grunge.
We all became dinosaurs at that point when that grunge stuff came out. We were unbookable at gigs because we weren't from Seattle and we weren't grunge.
It was a Nirvana thing.
It's amazing, that time period.
Yeah, it was really interesting too, being there then, because it had always been so unhip to be from Seattle, just completely unhip, until the 90s when you had like record company guys and attorneys from LA and New York showing up at SeaTac and changing into their plaid shirts so they could
and their corduroy pants.
Yeah, that's funny.
So they could meet with these guys and try and sign them, And the grunge guys were so like, they were just punks, who were saying fuck you to everything. And so all of a sudden they became a part of the machine, and it really messed with a lot of their brains. So I felt like my one of my roles in that time was to give them a safe place. And my house was kind of central, so they would all show up at my house, and I'd take all the furniture out so they could just sit on the carpet and smoke and drink and by the fireplace and
Man, how cool is
feel
that?
safe.
Yeah.
That is great.
And
That's great.
yeah,
So, I mean, did you know like the Nirvana guys before they made it?
no, because they weren't really from Seattle. They were from
I know.
other places.
Yeah,
Oh, I
most were
thought they
from
were from
California,
Seattle.
actually. Kurt was.
Wow.
They ended up there, but Kurt was from Oakland, from Aberdeen.
Mhm.
So which bands were actually from Seattle that would sit on your carpet? Soundgarden?
Most of them, yeah, Soundgarden, the Pearl Jam guys.
I love Soundgarden. I love them.
Yeah.
When I did my Guitar Zeus record, I based the sound of it to be Soundgarden meets Blue Murder meets the Beatles, and we had this special tuning.
Big meeting.
We had this special tuning that my singer, guitar player, writer, he tuned the guitar really strange, like Soundgarden, to get that really different kind of sound. And if you listen to it today, it still sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were doing that record, it was always listening to Soundgarden that inspired us, all the time signatures and all the crazy stuff. And I loved it. I loved it. Man.
Well,
Yeah.
most videos too. Yeah, most videos really suck, but I'll tell you, Black Hole Sun video is still one of them. Most
Right.
faces all stretched and the great pain in it and all that stuff.
And it came just in time after the 80s when everything was getting wimped out and all these bands that weren't very good were making it big, and and it was like really terrible.
And because of that video, that's why you doing a Black Hole Sun acoustically was even that much more cool, because it was such a flip from the actual video.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
A good song is a good song, like if
that's right.
Because it was so well written and everything, it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, you talk about good songs like that. I love your Immortal album, and watching you do "You Don't Own Me" live was powerful. Was really powerful. It really was, because I'm thinking about what you've come to represent as far as strength, whether it's strength as a musician, strength as a female, strength as a professional. I mean, it really. I think, did you select that song, or frankly any of those songs on Immortal, from a messaging standpoint? I saw it so inspirational, that song, as you sang it.
Thank you. I selected all the songs on that record from a messaging point of view, every single one. Like even the love songs are not just your typical love songs. They're very pointed, I guess you could say.
Deep.
Very, very deep. I mean, you talk about some of the deep things you've done. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball, because you don't hear a lot about this person, but you did do something back in, I don't know, it was 95 or something. Edith Piaf, you did a song, Jezebel, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
And
Jezebel.
And that is like, talk about a curveball, but from a classical, a French classical standpoint, a lot of people don't, know of her as the legend that she was. I happen to be a fan, but what made you select that one?
Oh, just the vibe of it. It's almost like a gypsy opera song, and it's just got a lot of fire to it. And as a singer, I just love lyrics, and I love the stories of songs. And that song is it may as well have been sung by Carmen Miranda or something. I just had a really nice old school.
A lot of people don't even know who Carmen Miranda is.
No.
Well, we do. We do.
Yeah, I know we do.
We do.
Well, the thing too is if the lyric touches you, the way to sell a song is to believe the song and have it touch you. It's one thing just to be handed a song, and if you don't really care about it, there's not going to be a performance. You can make it great because you're a great artist, but to have something that touches your heart and your soul, then when you perform it, then it's a
Right.
whole other level because
Yeah,
you're living in it.
I just emailed Rod Stewart yesterday because he had a new song called, it was about, I want to be with you when I wake up, you know, and he
Mhm.
talks about, you know, his youth is gone and he, you know, all and everything he's done his whole life for everyone on stage and in the song. And the lyrics were so good. And he's singing it, you know, with that feeling that he always gets. And I know after working with him, you know, when he
Yeah.
writes these songs, he lives them. There's something in him
It's
that lived
real.
it, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's real.
it
You can
was,
feel it.
I mean, you know, it's just a simple, you know, pop kind of song to play and everything with these girls dancing and everything. But I was looking at the lyrics and I told him, I said, you know, the lyrics are so they're so real. And I could tell when you're singing
Right.
it that you really believe it.
Mm.
And you know, and I felt the same way, you know, like, because my whole life I've been, you know, since I'm 20 years old, I've been famous, you know, and like on stage and in songs and playing all through my career. And when I heard him sing that, I said, wow, you know, I related to it and it was awesome. So
Yeah, that whole
lyrics are
being,
so important, you know.
yeah, and being there in the song. That's what makes it so hard, especially if you're on
Yeah.
tour.
Yeah.
And I know you know what I'm talking about because it's night after night after night, you know.
Yeah.
But I have this bar that I set really high where I just want to have it be authentic and real every single time and be there or else I'm a fraud. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to live up to that sometimes.
It is.
Wait, you
Yeah,
talk about
that's
being.
great.
Do we lose Leland? Must have lost Leland for a second
Happened
there.
to Leland.
Right.
Yeah, where'd he go?
We'll get back. He said, "Screw this! I'm done with these people."
Yeah.
He went to get his lips. Who knows?
Yes.
And did you see his lips?
Did you see his lips? And he
I
had these
did,
really
yeah.
red lips.
Like,
You know, I
He put
recently
that on. He
saw.
cracked up before the show started. He said, "You got to open
I
up
know,
like
I
that."
saw that. Yeah, I thought,
And I recently.
for a second
Go
I
ahead.
thought, wow, those are real for a second.
I know it. They kind of look. They're weird, but they do kind of look real. He's got
Yeah.
this weird Billy
White
Gibbons
You can't
after
see
a
his
fight
lips with
look.
the mustache and everything. The beard, you can't see any
Beard.
mouth at all.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
just one big blob of hair and a little face in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
funny.
I recently saw a collaboration, if you want to call it that, of Dreams with Alison Krauss, which you know, she hit it out of the park with that as well. And have a voice like that, and have a voice like yours on the same stage. How did that come to be, and how was that song specifically selected, or did Alison come in and ask to sing that song, or how did that all come to be?
Well, we invited her to come and sing on it because we had been, let's
There he
see,
Sorry about that.
that was during the time when Raising Sand was just out and so
Mhm.
big. Her album with Plant and Nancy and I covered one of the songs on there called "Your Long Journey," and she heard it and she went, "Wow, that's great!" You know, we got to be friends. We went and had lunch. We hung out, and then we thought for that show we were doing, how cool would it be to sing "Your Long Journey" with Allison, with Nancy playing mandolin, and
Mandolin,
it
yeah.
was, yeah, and
Wow.
we really hit it off with her. I mean, she's good people. She's just so real and down to earth and smart, you know, and when she sings though, it's so delicate. It's so just fragile and delicate and perfect that it was really hard for her to accustom herself to being on stage with a rock band using in-ears and all that, and the noise of the drums and all that kind of stuff when she was up there doing these dreams. It was very hard for her because she sings like such a delicate angel.
Yeah.
But
But I
boy,
tell you, it worked. I mean, it
Wait a minute,
worked.
did I hear you say the noise of drums?
Yeah, it's noise. That's
oh,
noise.
excuse me,
Uh-oh.
sound. Yeah.
Uh-oh,
Did he?
Vinny.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yep. Her brother's one of my favorite bass players too. Victor's just a monster.
Ah, yeah.
He's incredible musician.
Yeah,
Well, Leland, you know,
she
go
turns
ahead,
out,
Ann. I'm sorry.
she turns out to be like like a gal you could have a beer with, you know,
Yeah.
a beer.
She seems that way. She
Yeah.
seems that way. I would have loved to have been at the next table over with you guys at lunch. That must have been so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she brought one of her friends with her from the Cox family. Big, like, you know, Americana royalty in that town. And it was very interesting. It was like rock and Americana and country and all at the same table.
Music.
Yeah.
History of music. You know, we touched on songs that were touching you guys, and how you got to really understand or feel the music. Leland, I got to throw it at you because I don't even know if there's a possible answer to this question, but again, as we said at the top of the show, 2,500. You played on 2,500 plus songs, 2,000 albums. But
Wow.
if there was one song that touched you as you're playing in this session, like, wow, this is really, really deep. Can you think of one that was something that really touched you?
I'll tell you one of the most incredible songs to me was when we did James Taylor's Mill Worker. How he got into the headspace of a woman working in a place making shoes in it, and his writing for me was always, you know, pretty astounding. I mean, I spent 20 years with him, and it was so many of those songs. You just kind of sit there and you just go, how can you be such a putz and have this incredible depth of to come up with these great but that was great. But I mean, for me, the real gift that I've been given was being able to work in every genre. So there's been, you know, things everywhere. Because if I look back at songs that really meant something to me, still one of my favorite albums I ever worked on was Spectrum with Billy Cobham.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
Wow.
Awesome. That's the album that I sat with Jeff Beck when we were riding around.
Yeah.
At the BBA days, I would play Spectrum and Mahavishnu Orchestra,
Yeah.
which got Jeff in the headspace of Blow by Blow.
Yeah.
And originally, I was on Blow by Blow with him, but we couldn't work it out, you know. And you know, I just love that.
Yeah,
you know, I knew Billy from when he played with Dreams.
Yeah, I knew him
right?
those
And
days.
we played with him with Vanilla Fudge, and that's when I met him.
Yeah.
And when he came out with the Mahavishnu, I was just like blown away.
Yeah.
You know,
That's crazy.
the 9/8 thing, In a Mounting Flame, was it in?
Yeah, Inner Mounting Flame.
Yeah.
In a Mounting Flame, the 9/8 track, just
Oh no,
unbelievable.
the stuff was amazing. It was absolutely
Unbelievable. He's
amazing.
amazing, and what a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Billy was.
But every time I see Jeff, he runs up to me and goes, Stratus, Stratus. You know, about it. But you know, because I knew Tommy Bolin. I was in a band in the late 60s called Wolfgang out here in LA. And it was when Tommy was in Zephyr, and we were managed by the same criminal.
I know Tommy from Cactus in Zephyr.
Yeah, so we would be out together and stuff. And so it was a treatment and we did that whole album in 2 days. It's one take of each song.
Yeah. You know, what's really funny too is that Stratus was like and people would say that was the first fast double bass drum groove, but it wasn't. Parchment Farm was. It's just Cactus 1970. You know, and I've seen like on different interviews people talking about it, saying Stratus was the first double bass drum. No, and somebody else said no, it wasn't. It was Parchment Farm.
But I think Louis Belson was the first guy to do double kick drums.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. But he didn't do a rock.
Not a rock.
You know, and that's where Alex Van Halen told me it was the template for their Hot for Teacher.
Yeah.
You know, because they were big Cactus fans.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I put Vanilla Fudge together, I was talking to Eddie on the phone. He goes, "Hey, screw Vanilla Fudge, put Cactus back together." And we did.
Hey, before I know Ann's got a couple minutes left with us, guys.
The singer was dead at the time, so we couldn't.
Oh, that's nice.
The whole thing.
I did want to cover one other thing. I know Ann's got a couple minutes left with us, but you know, we were talking about Alison Krauss a little bit earlier and just how that worked, and it's interesting that you brought up the delicacy of her voice, but how it had to, conform to that situation. That's probably not as. Of course, she did sing with Robert Plant, but the point here is that is there somebody in history maybe Edith, but someone in history that you would also would have loved to have on stage with you to do that kind of a thing?
Wow.
Tough one, I know.
Well, Judy Garland. I
Oh,
mean, to me, she was
Whoa.
just it.
so
She
what would
had it
that
all.
song be? What would that song that you would
I mean,
say,
her
Judy,
soul
could we
was
sing?
Judy, Judy. God, it could be anything. It could be Over the Rainbow. Just
Oh,
it
can you
wouldn't have to
imagine
be
that?
rock.
Woolly
Yeah.
bully.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, Wooly
That'd be
Bully.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
Great song.
something, a question I haven't asked in a while, guys, if you remember, but I want to ask this of Ann and Leland because you both have done so much and been with so many people and so many, if you had to, God forbid, wherever you were, it was on fire, whatever it was, the house, and you had to grab some piece of memorabilia or something that was given to you by somebody, what would be? Can you tell me what that piece of memorabilia or that gift would be that you'd grab on the way out?
Well, I had a friend who did backstage catering during the late 70s and 80s, and she catered the Wings show, the Paul McCartney and Wings show in Seattle. And she she knew I was a McCartney fan then. And after they had played and left, she went in the dressing room and got his half-drunk bottle of scotch and gave it to me. It was Johnny Walker Black. And
Huh.
I still have it. I think I would grab that.
Wow.
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 That's
That's
cool.
great. That's really
How about you,
For an
Leland?
emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
emergency, break an emergency. First you grab the wife and the dogs and get them out, and then I would probably grab my old Frankenstein bass.
I knew you were gonna grab a bass.
Yeah.
Of course.
I knew it.
And also because that bass has so much meaning to me because it's got everybody from Jeff Porcaro to John Entwistle to B.B. King on it. I mean, it's got hundreds of signatures on it. So it's
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
really?
an
Wow.
emotional
Cool.
bass. So I
And
probably
are you going to be supporting Fierce Bliss live?
Yes. In fact, we've already started. We played at Mardi Gras last week. And yeah, we're going out to the West Coast and into Mexico and stuff in April to start.
Great.
Canada.
You know,
That's-
there's a Christian artist named Ann Wilson. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but
Yeah.
her name
because
has an E on it.
yeah, but when they announce it, like on a Christian radio station, they say Ann Wilson, right? And I went, wow, Ann Wilson. I wonder
Yeah,
if it's
well,
the same Ann Wilson. No,
It's not me. And there's also
Not
Ann
you.
Wilson, the golf.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah,
Well, there's only
but
one that
Ann-
counts, frankly.
Yeah,
Let's
I
just
know
be honest
one
here.
Ann Wilson. Yeah, there you go. Hey,
Well,
you know
and,
what, Ron? You never asked me and Vinny that question. What would we run out with?
Well, all right. Well, what would you run out with?
Let's forget it for another one because
Then why
Anne's
bring it
gotta
up, you
go.
freaking? Listen, Ann, we know you got to run. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor to
Yeah.
have you here, and God bless
Thank you.
you and your
Yeah, see
family
you
on the road.
yeah.
That's going to be great.
Thank you for
Can't wait
having
to have
me.
you back
It was-
here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
good to hang.
Thank
Good
you,
to
Ann.
hang with you. Good to hang with you. See you
have a
soon.
great
Cool.
tour.
Yeah,
Have
good
a
to see you
fabulous
too.
tour.
Yeah.
Ciao. Okay, bye.
We'll see you
All
again.
right.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, man. How cool is that, boy? I tell you what.
That's
Now
cool.
we get back to the real lips here.
We still need red lips.
Yes.
Yeah, she saw you. She saw you with the lips. When you
Yeah.
when you went off, I asked her if she saw you with the lips. She
And
said,
she
yeah.
threatened to leave. She said, "What is
Yeah.
this, Halloween?" And I got to, somebody asked me to ask you when they saw that one of my employees. They said, and I'm sure you get asked this all the time, Leland, but the beard thing.
What
What's
beard?
the evolution of the beard thing? Is this something you just haven't shaven since you're 14 ever, or how does this work?
Well, almost. Actually, it was born. They grabbed it and pulled, and I was stuck to it when they pulled me out.
All right, I believe it. I
You know,
believe it.
back when I was in high school, back in the mid '60s, it was one of those things. At least out here in LA, it was incredibly repressive. I mean, they had grooming guards. In public schools, you had to follow certain rules and all that. And it was kind of one of those things. I was lucky coming from, I mean, this is what breaks my heart. My father's side of the family is from Odessa. So I feel this connection to Ukraine and what the hell's going on there. And my mother's side was from Poland. So I've got that kind of DNA in me. So when I started sort of shaving when I was about 12, mildly,
Wow.
but the thing that was great was every summer at that point, I would grow like an iron jaw or something like that. So I could go play adult clubs in the summer and not get carded or, so I was playing, jazz clubs like the Lighthouse out here and all kinds of stuff. But when I got my high school diploma, I just said, fuck this shit. And kind of let it go. And it's just, it's just,
Wow.
it's
So how many years has it been since you actually
well,
shaved?
since the last time I saw my upper lip, I was 17.
Wow.
Are you sure you still have one?
I have
You're not
no.
even sure.
Well, he's got spares. He's got
Now,
spare
does
ones.
it get in the way? Does it get in the way of eating?
Oh
Does it get
yeah,
in the way of eating
no,
and you
I've
spill
got it
stuff
down to
on
a-
it?
I got it down to a science.
Because it's like a napkin too, on your shoulder, on your chest.
I'll tell you, one of the funniest things was I was involved with an organization called Canine Companions for Independence that raises and places service dogs. And so when we would have our big annual fundraiser, I was contacting everybody I knew to make donations. I was getting like Cheryl Crow sent a guitar, Willie Nelson sent a guitar. I got Billy Gibbons to send a guitar, all kinds of stuff. Well, I wanted a picture from each one of them signed that I could put with the instrument for the auction. And Billy was on the road in Europe at the time, and he had gotten a guitar to me, but he couldn't get a picture to me. So I just went online and I pulled up Billy Gibbons and was all kinds of photos. So I just downloaded one and printed it. Well, when I was looking at his stuff there, I saw when I had Googled up, there was an article about Dusty Hill, and I thought, well, I'm going to see what Dusty's up to. So I pull this article up, and I'm reading this whole article about him and all that. And as I scroll down, there's a picture on it, and it was me.
Oh wow!
You?
I did a screenshot and sent it to Billy, and there wasn't a font big enough for the laugh he sent back to me. But it was just so weird,
Did people ever come up to you thinking you're Billy?
Oh yeah, I would. You get ZZ Top or Oak Ridge Boys.
Oak Ridge Boys. Oh my God!
all that stuff. But it's just sort of became just a signature at that point.
That
Can
picture.
you imagine how many people go up to Billy and say, "Leland"?
Yeah,
The picture we have up of you is pretty wild with the beard flying.
That's a great shot.
that was on when I was out with Toto I think the first time I was out with Toto, because I think it's Simon's kit behind me.
Oh, right. That's a good way to show. Obviously you're out with Toto, as you mentioned. How much time did you spend with the Bee Gees?
That is the biggest mistake that's on the internet. Is I
couldn't find nothing.
No, I never ever worked with the Bee Gees.
Oh,
yet.
come on, there you go.
But it's on Wikipedia, and I've gone. I keep trying to get this stuff removed that's wrong, because there's enough right that I'd like to work with, not dealing with the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, people always say, "So what did you do with the Bee Gees?" And I go, "Nothing,
Nothing.
nothing."
How weird.
Well, let's talk about somebody you did do something with.
Yeah.
I saw a performance that you were as much a part of the performance as the other two with Carole King and James Taylor on stage together.
Yeah.
What a great night. Was it just a one time?
No, that was one of the biggest tours. Well, there's two elements of that. That whole Troubadour reunion tour started at the Troubadour Club in Hollywood.
Wow.
They were celebrating their, I think it was the 50th anniversary of the Troubadour. And one of the things was the very first gigs we ever did with James Taylor was at the Troubadour. And the band was Danny Korchmar, Russ Kunkel, myself, and Carole King was our piano player.
Wow.
And,
And she was just a piano player at the time?
he was just the piano player in the band at that point. And James got to the point where we were out for like a month on the road, but it started at the Troubadour. And we were finally saying, you know, you've had an amazing career that nobody knows about. They know of Goffin and King if they're looking at the Locomotion and all these incredible songs, but they don't know that that's you sitting on stage that did this. So we got her to start doing some of her songs in the show. And out of that, she ended up getting a record deal with Ode Records with Lou Adler, and goes in the studio and cuts Tapestry. So, you know, now you got a side person in the band who's got the biggest record in the world right now. So, but what happened was, to celebrate that 50th anniversary, they decided to put the original band back together with James Carroll, me, Cooch, and Russ. And we did a week at the Troubadour. It was so successful that we decided, that was in 2007. In 2010, we went on the road, and that was the thing that was on CNN. That was just been airing, and that was huge. We played all over the States with that. We played Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Then we were supposed to play Europe. We got a great European offer, but Carol was working on a book and stuff and decided not to do it. So that ended it. But it was a real interesting tour to do, because we were out for months on that. But how you're kind of going, okay, we started this whole thing at the Troubadour, which is an intimate little club of, I don't know, 600 people or whatever.
Not even, probably.
No, yeah, probably not that much. And all of a sudden, we were going to be going out on the road playing like Madison Square Garden and, you know, all those venues. And we were going, how do you keep that intimacy of a club when you're playing in an arena? And what we ended up doing was building, doing it in the round with a round stage that turned in the center of the arena. And we built a nightclub around that stage.
It looks so cool.
Oh, it was great. But it was one of the most cathartic tours I've ever been on. When you'd be up there playing and you'd look down and you'd see like 3 generations of a family all kumbaya, you know, they're like holding hands, singing.
You got a friend.
Yeah, I mean, it was so deep. I mean, we would look at each other sometimes, but like sometimes Cooch and I would look at each other, Danny Korchmar, and we'd look at it and go, God, they're all so old. And we'd look at each other and go, so are we? You know, it's a half a century later, you know, that we were doing the exact same band and and there's that old adage that you can't go home, but we actually got to go home, and it was great. I mean, we had such a good time on that tour.
Hey, speaking of book, then I read that you had a book with people giving you the finger.
Well, the "Everybody Loves Me" title is interesting.
Yeah. Everybody loves me, and hey, we get to see the mirror.
I actually have it sitting.
Everybody loves me.
Funny.
Okay, so we're expecting a certain kind of a book. What actually kind of a book is it?
Stories in there, or is it just all pictures?
It's all. Hold on one sec here. I'll
get a good one.
Oh, here's a good one.
No, right on. Oh, right on. Charlie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Charlie, you know, I mean, it's a massive book. It's 6,000. That's so hard to.
Wow, 6,000 what?
6,000 pictures.
Photos, not pages. It'd be the Bible.
Oh my God, dude, that's unbelievable. That is really unbelievable.
So you literally travel the country,
huh?
How long did it take you to do all that?
I've been taking the pictures. There's Sheryl Crow. There's Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
Oh my God!
And there's Julian Lennon.
Lennon, yeah. Wow.
It started as an accident. When we were out with Phil Collins in 2004 doing the first final farewell tour, there was talk that Phil was going to retire at the end of the tour. And I thought, Jesus, you know, I mean, I've been on the road with so many of these crew guys and stuff for so many years, but if we're not touring, they live all over the world, so we don't get to see each other. So I thought, I'm going to take just pictures of everybody and make a little folder just for my memory book, so that I can, as long as I have a memory, I can enjoy it. Yeah. And I had a bass tech named Steve Winstead. His nickname was Chenner. And when he came on the tour, I never had techs for the most part. I always did all my own gear and stuff on the road.
Wow.
And I think he came in like having just come off the road with like a bass player who had 10 basses and wanted new strings every night and all this shit. So he's going, what do you need? What do you need? And I'm going, nothing. I don't know. Just, I guess, have the amp on stage, make sure it goes on, I guess.
Sound like Tim.
So,
Yeah.
So we had kind of a running joke, and we were out for like a year together. So we had this kind of running joke, like, so he became like the go-to guy for like the singers and helping drums, percussion, everything. He was helping. Well, the first guy I walk up to get a picture is him working at his laptop. And I go, hey, Chinner, give me a smile. And he's typing away and he just goes, and I looked at the picture and I went, this is really pretty good. So I went and I got Phil and Tony Smith as manager. I got everybody in the band, the crew, bus drivers, truck drivers, caterers. Ended up with about 150 pictures and put it away. And then a couple of years later, when I went out with Toto for the first time, I decided to get some more pictures. After that, it took on a life of its own. People heard about it. I would go to like the NAMM show and everybody's running up to me, giving me the finger. And so at this point, I mean, I've got about 6,000 pictures in the book, but we honed that down. I have about 13,000 pictures.
Wow.
And it's everybody from Lawrence Fishburne to John Goodman to Jeff Beck's in there, Rhonda Smith, all the people from that camp. But it's also I did not make this about like, here's the celebrity section. Now here's this.
Here's a caterer.
There'll be a big picture of somebody I met at an airport, and then Jay Leno's picture, small. You know, it's humanity. And
did you ever think of those 13,000 pictures, how many actually meant it?
I'm hoping all of them did. I mean, why bother if you can't be serious about it? It's real funny. You'd go up to somebody and you go, come on, flip me off. And they go, what do you mean? I go, come on, man, flip me off. And they go,
come on, asshole.
But you get the whole gamut of people that are digging in deep to people that are like hiding behind their hands. And, you know, it's a real study in humanity. I'll show you. Let me try to find this. This is a great shot. I had done these three guys individually over the years, but I managed to get them all together, which was really
How do you find it in a book of 6,000?
and there's no page number, so I'm just scrolling through.
So you don't have like an index if you're looking for Phil Collins is on page 87?
No table of contents. Oh my God.
That's great.
Well, first off, let me find it. There's my God damn it. Here's my parents.
Wow. That's funny.
But we did the Grammys a few years back and did it with I'll just show you. It's Merle Haggard, Christopherson, and Willie Nelson.
God, look at this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's Chris.
I have each of them individually from when
That is awesome.
but we did the show with them as the Highwaymen, and I grabbed them all together. But it's one of these books that, as people get it, and they're just going, I can't put it down. It's so much fun just to keep and trying to discover. I mean, finding people like Art Garfunkel in there who doesn't really look arty in it. So you're
right.
Art Garfunkel. You know, I mean, it's a real fun thing.
That's great. That's
Leland, I got to ask you, with all the people again.
Who put it together?
I did it. I mean, this is self-published. It's basically me. I have a friend who I met who lives out in this area named Richard Tremarchi. His nickname's Blue, and he has a company called Artworks. And he and I ended up working on this thing, just going through pictures, and then he assembles books. But, you know, like you open a normal book, and like the behind the front page and the first cover, everything's white in them. It's all pictures. As soon as you open the book,
it's fabulous.
Man,
gosh,
that is awesome.
And the thing that's fun is when you come to the very first page.
That's
how cool!
Look at that one. Are you actually in there? Do you like this a final picture? You giving the finger?
Well, I'm in a couple of shots, but I'll tell you, to me, this was one of the most important pictures in the book for me. This was my junior high school music teacher who turned me on to bass.
Well, you stole his mustache.
Yeah. I reconnected with him shortly before he passed away, and I grabbed him at that and said, "Come on!"
Awesome.
And but it's one of these things that you go through there, and you find there's themes in it, like all people with cameras in it. So I've and like I've got one page that's got Lou Adler on one side and Jack Nicholson on the other, and so, but those two guys sit together at the Lakers games. So the 2 pages are the Lakers colors with those guys. So we've got cool. like little tiny inside.
Nice. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
But I've done it all. I ship them all myself. I do all the orders myself.
I'm ordering as soon as we get off this. I'm ordering because that's got to be something.
Yeah.
When can you get it? Plug.
Hey, now, I'm going to email you and get your phone number. So
let me just shoot. I'll shoot it out at you right now here. I had to create a website for it, and I was just going to get like lelandsklar.com or everything's been bought, so screw it. Rather than pay somebody for my name, you go to lelandsklar'sbeard.com. And I've also got t-shirts with my beard on the front of them.
I saw that. It's really funny.
Awesome.
I got those
really
funny pictures of them with their t-shirts on, and I've got my artwork in there because I was a graphic artist.
Yes,
good
all
for you,
kinds of shit. I turned into a kind of a cottage industry unbeknownst to myself. And
I love your Payday rendition.
Oh, thanks, man. That was one of the more popular drawings. I'll show you a great drawing here. This is one of my favorites.
You drew a picture of a Payday bar. Really interesting with the wrapper.
A picture of a what?
Payday. You know the candy bar?
Oh, Payday. Oh my God.
Here's one of the pictures that this is a pencil drawing.
Oh, that's cool. The jazz guys.
Oh, yep. Wow, man.
Holy
beautiful.
Shit.
Wow. Very
well,
good.
I love how you've achieved. I mean, there's expression on their face that you could feel.
Yeah. When I was in college, I was really more studying to be like a technical or a medical illustrator. And I was in bands. I never thought I'd have a career in music. And it happened by accident. I was in this band I mentioned earlier, Wolfgang, and our drummer Bugs Pemberton was an English drummer who was in Jackie Lomax and the Undertakers in England.
Oh, Jackie Lomax! Oh
yeah.
My God! Wow.
And so he had a friend named John Fishbeck who owned Crystal Recording Studio, who did all the early Stevie Wonder records, Songs in the Key of Life and all that. Mm-hmm. And John would come and hang out at our rehearsals with us because we had a house that we rented and that the band rehearsed in. And at one of the rehearsals, he brought a friend of his who had just gotten back from England, an old childhood friend, and it was James Taylor. And he hung out with us for a couple of days, and that was it. And then when James got the opportunity to play the Troubadour, he remembered me from this rehearsal, and and Peter Asher, they tracked me.
So that's what started your career, playing with James Taylor. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really something. If I ordered, if we ordered one of your pieces of art, do you personally autograph it?
No, they're limited edition, so I sign it and number it. There's a very specific amount available. With the Payday, there's 100. There's 150. They're like museum quality prints on it.
I got one last question, Leland, before we head out of the Hangin' Bangin' section here. So obviously you've worked with literally countless individuals, legendary and otherwise.
Mostly.
Otherwise, and you've received so many awards. But let's say there was the top lifetime achievement award or whatever that would be, some big deal, living or not living or halfway in between. Who would be the one that you would select to give that to you, to present that to you?
Wow. I would probably say Liberace, because that's what got me thinking about music in the first place.
Isn't that funny?
It would be. I mean, he had such a wonderful TV show.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Yeah, I mean,
we all do.
he had this candelabra.
George.
The candelabra, right? The candelabra.
Yeah, George would come out and play violin, and so. But I would watch it with my parents, and I was completely enamored with it. You know, so. But there's so many people, you know, that I've been, you know, respectful of. You know, I'm not in awe of people as much. Occasionally, I'll work on a project where I'm kind of like really taken aback. I did 2 albums with Andy Griffith, and sitting in the studio with Andy Griffith, I was freaking out, you know, just because here's my whole childhood, you know, watching Andy, you know, and not only that, but from Onion Head and Facing the Crowd and No Time for Sergeant. And the funniest thing he said in the studio was he still had all this beautiful thick white hair, and he looked over and he went, "Who would have thought I'd have all this hair and Opie would be bald?"
That's excellent.
I
tell you what, you know, if somebody asked me if the great quote unquote rock and roll bassist Leland Sklar, who is Legends and Icons, would be, and his 2 top was Liberace and Andy Griffith, I'd probably lose that bet. I really would. But Leland, on behalf of all of us here on Hangin' Bangin', and I want to thank you so much for honoring us, honest to God, honoring us by being on the show. Hopefully you'll come back and talk to us. We wish you the best on the air. I would
love to come back, and I'd love to come back at some chance and talk to you about the band with Waddy and Cooch and Russ and Steve.
Well, we should get Waddy and you again.
Yeah, I would love it.
Awesome.
That would be great. Well, once again, thank you.
I'll be personally emailing you to get your number so we can.
Okay, no, let's stay in touch, man.
Send you some files.
I would love it. No, I would absolutely love it. It's so good to see you, man. It's
you too, man.
So
it's been a long time.
This is great. And Anne, Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
So good. So it looks great.
She looks great. She looks great. She sounds very inspired.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm glad to have her on there. So
yeah, you have a great.
I gotta go to BJ's. So
I don't know what that is, and I'm not going to ask. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is another edition of Hangin' and Bangin' here with, again, I mean, some of these guys hate when I use the word legends and icons because they equate it to old, but it's honest to goodness truth when you got Leland Sklar, Ann Wilson, Vinny Appice, and Carmine Appice all on the same show, as we do each week here on Hangin' and Bangin'. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on our Spotify, our podcast, iHeartRadio, and make sure you like us and share and let everybody know what a cool experience Hangin' and Bangin' is each Thursday night, 6 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, and 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Until next Thursday, stay cool, stay rocking, and stay hanging and banging.